Hi, welcome to Exploring the Illusion of Free Will. My name is George Ortega, and this is episode number 214, Free Will, and we got you now, President-elect Trump, part 4. Okay, and this is also being shown in Manhattan as part of an hour episode with the episode I just did. And I want to address, in the last episode, we addressed how Trump being elected could actually be a blessing in disguise, because it wakes us up to our own kind of immorality, that once we face that, we can create a much better world. But what I want to address now is more directly the theme. We got you now, what is it? We got you now, President-elect Trump. Okay, Trump is a horrible person. He really is. I mean, he's vile in so many ways. He's liar, he's callous, he's a bad person. And again, in keeping with this theme, we can't rightly blame him because that's the way he turned out, whether it's genes or how his father raised him or whatever. You know, there are circumstances beyond his control that explain why he's the way he is. Notwithstanding, just as with Hitler, with any kind of dictator that's a threat to the world, we can't just say, well, he's got no free will, so we can't do anything about it. We still have to stop them. But so to the extent we understand that he doesn't, well, all right, we still have to stop him. So in other words, with Trump, the theme is all right, when he was running for the president, politically, in terms of political strategy, we couldn't attack him all that much, because if, for example, if President Obama had the authority to release Trump's income tax returns, that would have shown that he's cheated probably a lot more than he's claimed, and who knows what else it would have shown. We couldn't do that during the campaign, because then Obama would have been seen as partisan. But now the campaign's over, so ideally, Obama can now release his income tax returns, but that's not, that's just one thing we can do. We basically have to, as people, band together, unite, and just disempower Trump. In other words, as president, he can't say, I don't think, he'll get away with saying the kinds of things he was saying on the campaign trail. That's the first thing. But more so than that, when we're faced with somebody like Trump, when he was a private citizen, he was kind of operating under the radar, and so the kinds of things he was doing, he basically scammed a lot of people with this Trump University. I think they paid $30,000 for a nonsense course on real estate, whatever. I mean, he's done a lot of horrible things, and now that he's president, now this stuff is all out there, now that our country, or at least a lot of us, the majority of us, understand how bad he is, we have to kind of make him pay the price, not because he has a free will, because he doesn't, but as the deterrent. In other words, to the extent that we allow Trump to just get away with what he's done, what he's doing, what he plans to do, then other people will say, well, he did it, then I can do it too. And this applies not just to us here in the United States, but it applies to other countries. And for example, I would think that the way the Republicans have been over 2 decades, 3 decades now, has probably emboldened and empowered, these terrorists to be more and more, cruel to victims and all. In other words, this, when we allow insensitivity and callousness and disregard, to thrive in the United States, other countries follow our lead. So we have to band together, unite against Trump. And so again, I've said it in the last few shows, let me go through it again. One of the things we need to do is launch an international boycott of Trump's products. Now, Trump owns a lot of corporations that are now going to be run by his children, but again, they're offering products, and if we boycott them, we can hopefully bankrupt them all. So that'll deprive him of a great amount of wealth. So again, that's a deterrent. If any other billionaire dares to think that they can use their wealth and all to gain the presidency, especially through the kind of vile means that Trump did, they'd think twice about trying that. If we really strip Trump of all his money, as punishment for what he's done. So that's one thing we can do. In keeping with that, another way we can do that is to, and this actually, Trump, if we do this successfully, Trump may actually be the first president of the United States to basically say, well, you know, like, I don't want to be president anymore. Because, like, Trump is a very selfish, self-centered individual. He doesn't care about people. He cares about himself. And so what happens is, if we launch this attack, if we initiate many hundreds, thousands of civil suits, of criminal suits against his companies, he will lose so much money, not even like having lost the cases, which hopefully he'll lose a lot of cases, but just having to defend himself against so many cases. His money, however much he has, will dwindle by the day, so that he'll, you know, who knows, maybe within a few months, he'll realize he's losing so much money, and he really can't address all this stuff as president, because he's got to like do the job of a president. That he may actually, if we launch this assault strongly enough and quickly enough, decide that, you know, I don't want to be president anymore, you know, I've got to go back to run my life, and we're rid of him that way. You know, that's, but whatever we do, the theme of this is like, we have to do something. I mentioned this before, I think in the last episode, there's a saying that like all that evil takes, all that it takes for evil to prevail is for good men, good women, whatever, to stand by and do nothing. Well, that's the lesson of this. In other words, like, we can't, if we just don't do anything, or if we don't do enough, then, you know, we suffer the consequences, you know. So, all right, so, and now, you know, now here's the thing. So, like, again, we don't blame him. We don't blame ourselves for having caused them, because, like, you know, nobody saw this coming. And the other thing is, like, there are lessons to be learned from this. Like, there's a whole population of people who voted for him, who were first deceived by him, second are very immoral themselves because of like the hatred they hold in their heart for other people, their willingness to condone the kind of violence and cruelty and you know, and just crassness that Trump encourages. You know, I'm not sure we as a country understood that so many of us feel and think that way. So now we do. Now we do, and not only do we have to address Trump by just like disempowering him, just like removing, you know, all of his power, we also have to address this population. Now again, especially with the population, in other words, with Trump, you know, like, we may need to punish him, we may need to imprison him, you know, like, you know, 5-10 years for whatever. He could, like, for example, one thing that he's done with that Trump University, he scammed all these people, then he bribed the Attorney General of Florida to not investigate the case, right? I mean, we know this, and this didn't come out in the campaign, because for it to have come out as much as it could have would have been seen as partisan. So anyway, now that the election is over, you know, we might actually be able to put Trump behind bars. We may have to do that quickly, though, because, like, there, you know, if Trump becomes president, this is not a good thing or a right thing, but like, he may be exempt from being sued in that way. So, you know, this is something that would have to happen before January 20th. Again, there are things we can do, things we need to do, but like, getting back to his supporters, like, all right, Trump doesn't have a free will, and his supporters don't have a free will either. So even though, like, we may have to really punish Trump severely by imprisoning him seriously, like 10 years, whatever, you know, however much we can, because like, he really deserves 10, 20 years, because, like, for example, so many young kids are in prison for 5, 10, 20 years for drug offenses, for selling, you know, marijuana or whatever. I mean, it's horrible. And Trump is like, he's the kind of person that encourages this kind of like brutal, you know, callous treatment toward others. And, you know, our prisons are filled with people that really shouldn't be there. So in other words, like, we have to set an example with Trump, you know, by putting him in prison. I think we should do that. But with his followers, I think we have to kind of like, you know, based on the fact that they don't have a free will either, we have to be a bit more compassionate. In other words, like, these people are not as dangerous as Trump, so we don't have to like attack them as ruthlessly, in a sense, as we have to attack Trump. But they do have to be reached. They do have to be, you know, helped to understand, you know, that their values are extremely flawed. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I want to just address this a bit because, like, we don't have a free will, and who we are to a great extent is conditioned by our media. I mean, there's so much violence in our media, so we tend to be a violent people. We're so much more violent than so many other countries in the world, you know, guns, shootings, all this stuff. So we're conditioned. It's not up to us. We don't blame ourselves, but we have to understand that what we teach ourselves and our children through our media determines who we become as people, and who we become as people determines what we do, like electing this horrible person like Trump to the president. So one case in point that I want to bring out is, for example, about a year ago or so, I think, I saw this movie called Minions. Okay, Minions is an animated children's movie, feature film. You know, I saw it in the theater. And it's about these, you know, most of you, a lot of you probably know this. It's about these like three very cute, you know, adorable good guys. These were the good guys. We're supposed to empathize with them. Little minion people, whatever they are, creatures, that their leader, you know, was killed by something, you know, in the beginning of the movie. So the movie is about the quest for these little minions, these three little minions, to go around the world searching for a new leader. But here's the thing, when I saw this movie, I was bewildered. I couldn't believe that a person made this movie and that the theaters were showing it to kids. Because these little minions were basically, you know, spanning the world to find the most vile, despicable, evil person, being, whatever you want to call them, to be their leader. This is who we are. This is who we are. I mean, like, people will champion, liberals will champion free speech, you know, like, no, like, you know, free speech is something that we treasure. Yes, but we treasure ourselves more. In other words, like, if speech, you know, we don't, hate speech is illegal. You know, lying, you know, misrepresentation, false advertising is illegal. There's some kinds of speech that are illegal because they are harmful. And so to the extent that our media, our movie makers, our booksellers and stuff just create these kinds of you know, really harmful influences on our kids and on us, you know, they will be conditioning generations of people that are more and more evil. That, you know, like a little kid, let's say a kid who's 10 years old who sees this Minions movie, you know, when he's 30 years old and able to vote, and one of the candidates is like Trump, you know, really evil, you know, he'll have been conditioned by not just this movie, but by so much in our media to say, he's evil, you know, no problem. You know, I saw it in the movie, that's who I am because of what these movies made me. All right, so let's get back to Trump. What we can do, what we should do. I don't know what, you know. Again, we've got until January 20th, and this show, I guess, is coming out. I guess maybe the first week in December. I don't know, maybe the late November. But we've got until January 20th. And, like, we may not be able to prosecute Trump as a president because our laws don't allow that. And I think we may need to change those laws because, like, you know, I'm not sure a president should be able to be allowed to just, you know, be exempt from criminal prosecution just because he's a president. Doesn't make sense. But, like, you know, before Trump becomes president January 20th, we may be able to, like, initiate a criminal action against him that maybe will put him in prison before he actually becomes president. What I'm referring to specifically is the Comey revelation. James Comey, the director of the FBI, you know, in an action, an illegal, well, I think it's a seditious action that he basically leaked these emails where there was nothing there in order to influence the election. But then what happened was with that Harry Reid, the leader, Democratic leader of the Senate, minority leader, he wrote a letter to Comey, you know, that was published by the media, saying, well, you know, like, you know, you put this this information out that was so in favor of Trump, attacking Hillary, but you didn't publish this information that we have that Trump has, major ties with Russia, illegal ties. In other words, like Trump may have done things with his negotiations with Putin and all that could potentially be serious criminal offenses. I mean, there are laws in this land that when a person is rich, that they can get away with these things because like nobody wants to like spend the money to try these people because these people have a lot of money to defend themselves, and like it's a lot of people think it's not worth the effort, right? So a lot of people, rich people, get away with things like this that they wouldn't ordinarily get away with. All right, now with Trump, okay, fine, he's rich, so he's going to defend himself, and it may cost us some money to initiate these criminal suits. But that's one option we can do. We can like initiate some kind of a suit for that accuses him of some kind of illegal association with Russia. That's like it's kind of like treasonous perhaps. And if he's in prison, if we can imprison him, or if he's on trial before he becomes president, maybe he won't be allowed to be president. Maybe that'll render him unqualified, or just like negate his, I guess there's certain criteria you need to have to be president. Maybe that'd be one of them. But again, the theme of this show is like the title is again, because I didn't get much sleep last night. Free will, and we got you now, President-elect Trump. Trump has been on the attack this whole campaign, and he's demonized Hillary, and he's demonized Hispanics, and he's demonized Muslims, and he's attacked women, he's attacked the disabled, he's been on the attack. All right, now it's our turn. And so like, between now and the election, and even after he's elected president, we have to launch a major offensive against this person to not only disempower him, but to serve as an example for others who might want to follow him, that if you want to go that route, and if you want to corrupt a major population of the American people, including corrupting our children with your hate and your vile, selfish ways, there's a big penalty to pay. So we need to do this, and it's the righteous thing to do. Sometimes, like we liberals, we Democrats, are faulted rightly for going high when well, no, we're faulted for fighting fire with fire. In other words, like, no, let me start. Sometimes we liberals are rightly criticized for not fighting enough. The Republicans will fight tooth and nail on everything. They're that's one thing that you have to admire them for. They have the courage of their convictions. We liberals, Democrats don't often. And for example, an example of that is Michelle Obama is a wonderful first lady, wonderful person, but she's said several times, and Hillary repeated it, like, when they go low, we go high. I'm not sure that's, in other words, that's kind of like saying, if somebody's coming after you with a gun or something, you're going to what? You're going to like, be nice to the person? I think this is like, I think, we have to be more ruthless. Not out of hatred. Again, they don't have a free will. We need to understand that so we don't feel like we're doing it from our free will-based vengeance. But we need to be ruthless in attacking people like Trump and, the kind of people that, the Republicans that are like him, because it's self-defense. In other words, like, to the extent that we don't, for example, if they're attacking us, if Trump is attacking minorities and women and all, and we don't fight back, then what happens is a lot of these Trump supporters will say, oh, well, these Hillary supporters are weak, Hillary's weak, she won't fight back. We need a strong person to defend our country. So something like that. If we don't fight back, they will excuse that civility for weakness and not support us. Okay, what else? Let me now, all right, in terms of the politics, what's interesting is like, there's another saying is like, that says like, the enemy of my enemy, no, what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. In other words, like, Trump is our enemy if you're a good person in this, country, in the world. Another one of our enemies is the Conservative Party, because they show extreme callousness. They're denying that climate change is happening. They're a dangerous group and all. But Trump is also dangerous to the Conservative Party. Trump is an enemy of the Conservative Party. So what will probably happen is the Democratic Party and the Conservative Party will hopefully now form an alliance. Again, two enemies now coming together to fight a greater enemy, Donald Trump. This happened in World War II when we were enemies with Russia, because Russia became communist, you know, and in the, you know, early 1900s, whatever. And then when we saw the threat of Hitler and the Nazi Party, Russia and we, you know, were part of the alliance that destroyed the Nazi Party, that ended Hitler's, you know, atrocities. So in that same way, fine, we don't like conservative ideology, they don't like ours, but one thing we need to do is come together, you know, especially if Trump makes it into the presidency. If we have any luck at all, he won't be elected president. If, you know, we'll put him behind bars, we'll imprison him before that happens. But if we're not able to do that, at the very least, we can like render him completely impotent. Just basically like, you know, have such a strong alliance against him that he won't be able to get anything done. Talk about blessings in the skies or a silver lining behind a cloud. Another thing that it's maybe in our favor is like this is looking, okay, sometimes, especially with climate change, we have to not look at this year or next year or even the next 4 years, but we have to look at the next decade. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand is like one of the reasons the Republicans won so many House seats in our Congress in 2014 and 2010 is what's known as gerrymandering. And this is a technical term. It's where you divide a district, you know, in a way that's unfair, that just gives you an unfair advantage. Now, what happens is like every decade, new boundaries for these districts are formed. Now, if Hillary would have become president, chances are that the Republicans who now control the House, because it's the House that sets these districts, chances are, and it's the legislatures, the state legislatures and all, chances are that basically the Republicans would have control of these, you know, creating these districts just like they did last time, and they would create them more unfair to basically be able to control the House of Representatives for another decade after 2020. Now, so again, a silver lining behind this is like you can expect that in 2018, in the midterm elections, that we Democrats will take back the House of Representatives and keep it through 2020 so that when these new district lines are redrawn, then we can redraw them fairly, you know, fairly. And if they're drawn fairly, Democrats will win, you know, we'll control the House because like we have a majority. There's more of us, you know, who represent our values, who vote for us than there are Republicans. So, and the value of that is if we have any chance of saving the future of our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, we need to address climate change. And you know, with the kind of like stalemate, I mean, a Republican Party that denies that climate change is happening is not going to do anything about it. And so, you know, so yeah, naturally in 2018 we need to win the House of Representatives and ideally also the Senate. You know, that's going to be tough in 2018 because like there are many more seats that we'll be defending than the Republicans will. But in 2020, we have to come up with a candidate that will win the presidency. And I think it's, you know, if Trump remains president, I think it's pretty clear that he's going to lose 2020. I mean, you know, it would be like beyond belief for him to win that. I mean, like, but anyway, so then if that, then, you know, then the blessing in the skies of his having won this election may be that in 2020, you know, by having the House, the Senate, and the presidency, maybe we can start to do what we need to do about climate change. Okay, but again, the theme of this is that nobody has a free will. We're not blaming Donald Trump for being a vile, selfish, horrible person, okay? It's not his fault. He didn't create himself. He didn't form himself. You know, he's not responsible for his genes or for his background, but he's the person he is. and we need to not let him get away with it. But again, the value of understanding that he doesn't have a free will is that when we go about it, we can free ourselves from this this vengeance-filled attitude. In other words, like to the extent we believe in free will, we'll say he's a horrible person, and we get all angry, we get all hateful, we get all mean-spirited in our attack. Well, you know, any boxer will tell you that like once you get emotional in the ring, you're lost because your emotions cloud your reasoning. So to the extent we can like free ourselves from the clouding influence of this belief in free will that causes us to hate Trump and to blame him for what's not in his, he's not responsible for, that will lessen our effectiveness in attacking him and depriving him of his money and of his power and basically defeating what he stands for. So, all right, so like we've gotten through this. I thought I was going to cancel this because like I got, what, 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep last night. And, but then, you know, I don't have a free will, but like I woke up this morning optimistic. I said, I got to do these shows and I'm going to go into Manhattan, you know, because again, this is like Wednesday, November 9th. And we just found out last night, a few hours ago, that Trump won. The world was shocked. So like later tonight, I'm going to Manhattan with my co-host Nick, who should have been here, but like he couldn't get his car out of the garage or whatever. I don't know, big mix-up. We're going to be in Manhattan taping this, and who knows what we'll say there. But you know, this will be another kind of like opportunity to lay out the groundwork for an argument against Trump. But anyway, all right. So like, you know, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you can catch this episode and all the previous ones on YouTube, you know, it takes a while sometimes to get them up there, but there's over 200 of them up on there. And there's about 150 or so on iTunes. And, you know, we're here, you know, all right. So I will continue, you know, like this free will message is important, but I think there's more important messages to be done. I mean, I'll probably continue doing the show, but like this issue with how cruel we are to animals. I mean, like, if we believe in God and we believe in justice, you know, and we, you know, we continue to essentially torture these animals or pay people to torture them for us, because that's actually what we do, then we will be punished by God. So, all right. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back in other episodes to explore the illusion of free will. Thanks.